Boom, we're live. All right, let me make sure I get myself live on Instagram because last week or this week, I don't even remember. I think it was this week I podcasted. This is my second podcast this week. I forgot to hit the live on my Instagram and I thought I was live. So let me make sure that I am actually live on Instagram. All right, we live. Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my as inspiration, motivation, and a ton of tips to help y'all on your fitness and your fat loss journey or your body composition journey. Good morning. I hope y'all are having a good week. I am feeling really freaking good. And that is the power of Jesus in my life. I got to tell you that. He just makes everything make sense, even in the darkest times. Although that's not what today's podcast episode is about. I am going to be actually starting a second YouTube series. I just haven't actually started it yet. I've got all the notes written for my first couple of episodes, but today we are doing straight up podcasts. So you're either listening to this on maybe Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you are watching live on YouTube or on Instagram. Hello, if you're on here live, you can always add comments in. I wish I had like one spot where I could see all of the comments together, but I have to keep toggling between Instagram and StreamYard, which is where I'm actually recording from. Today's topic, we are going to be talking about, can you stay lean while eating intuitively? And this honestly was something that I felt like talking about on my podcast. I had a really good group call with my clients yesterday where we talked just a lot about like micromanaging your body and micromanaging your food and all that stuff. And when is it time to kind of move on from being like the micromanager into being like, hey, I am truly empowered and I trust myself enough with food to know that I don't have to micromanage it to maintain for life. And honestly, that is what I am really passionate about. It's why I do really encourage my clients to stay with me long time, stay with me long time, stay with me a lot longer than they think that they do, because I'd rather be that voice in the back of their head, reminding them of the little things they need to keep to them, or the promises they need to keep to themselves to keep them staying lean without constant obsession. And sometimes it is a reminder of like, hey, it's okay to go away and vacation, and let me see how you react to vacation. What happens to your weight after you've been away for 3 weeks? Or, just learning how to shift into maintenance without constantly having to track every single calorie and macro. My goal really is to get my clients to learn how to live lean without constant obsession. Even in the fat loss phase, it should never be about this obsessive thing. It should always be about what you truly want. So I am a big believer in a blend of intentional eating and intuitive eating. And that was the topic of yesterday's topic. And I'll talk a little, or call with my clients. I'll talk a little bit about that today. But my main focus today is, can you eat intuitively and stay lean? And I'm going to be honest, guys, I actually used to use a lot of documents like on Google for my notes, but I am back to pen and paper. So I'm sorry if you just heard that you're not watching, but like, you know what? I have found myself in like the last couple of weeks just feeling so much better about being detached from electronics all the time. And that means I've been writing my notes down actually like I used to do like in school. So I just said like, how many times can you tell I am a millennial? So one of the things I wanted to start off with is understanding that the first thing that needs to be intuitive, when we're even talking about this topic, is it has to be an intuitive decision that change matters to you. And that means that changing your body is something that you truly want because you are not feeling like it is a true representation of what you are capable of or what you want to portray in life. And that often isn't just about your body. It's how you're living in your body. It's how you're making food decisions. So for instance, somebody that really struggles with body composition because they're always eating out might be somebody who, when they eat out, they feel like the food and what everybody else is doing is more important to them than what they actually need. So they're just going with the flow. They feel kind of weird being that person. It has to be intuitive for you to be like, hey, like I want to take some ownership and pride in my body and change it in a way that feels good to me. Now, I say that as an example, but if you're hearing that, you're like, but I want to be able to eat burgers with my friends. You should be able to eat burgers with your friends. It's just knowing that if you are eating burgers with your friends every single day and you also want to achieve better body composition, you're going to have to figure something out there, right? So it has to be an intuitive decision to want to change your body. It has to come from a place from, I want this for me. And you have to truly be excited for the transformation that is possible. Not just the physical one, but the mental one. Like when food no longer takes up mental space, right? When it's like I can make a food decision to have salad and chicken and I don't feel FOMO. That is a intuitive change that like at the end you're like, wow, like I never thought I was going to be here. Like that's the stuff that you want. You want to be able to be the girl that can have a cupcake and stop at one cupcake and not feel like you have to eat 5 cupcakes, right? Or have to start over on Monday, whatever. You want to really change and be able to embody someone that truly has trust with yourself and confidence and empowerment in everything that you're doing. Okay. So that has to be an intuitive decision. And that's the start of becoming intuitive and intentional. All right. So what do you actually want for yourself is what I wrote down. So as you're listening to this, and even when you read the topic, can you stay lean while eating intuitively? Maybe you're somebody that has spent years able to maintain a lean physique or a semi-lean physique for periods of time, or even for that length of time, but you feel like you have to always be so locked in. And maybe you feel okay about that, but you also feel like you're also missing out on some of the things that maybe you could be experiencing. Maybe you want to experience life in a little bit differently. Maybe you are still a little bit detached from your appetite and still a little bit scared and acting out of a place of fear, like you have to hold on to things. Do you want food freedom? Like, do you want to achieve body composition changes, but you also feel like you're just like a slave to food and you don't really feel like that's how you want to be? Okay. So like, what do you actually want for yourself? And this isn't about, I want to lose weight. It's who do you want to become on the other end of weight loss? So if I think about myself in my life and the transformations that I've been through, I'm 41 years old now, 41 years old. And my very first successful diet was when I was 19 and I lost a significant amount of weight. And at that time, what I really wanted for myself was I had spent a lot of years insecure in my body. And I wanted to see what would happen if I, started to work out, and working out made me feel better. And I started to like the way my clothes fit me better. And that started to become more important to me than, going out and drinking and having checkers at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was more in line to do the things that were going to give me that result than the ones that were giving me the other result. And then when I started CrossFit and I kind of like, I want to say I ditched diet mindset, but I kind of went all in on paleo and was just eating as much as I wanted. I wanted to feel free with food. I wanted to be able to just eat as much as I wanted and not have the mental space of calories and macros. So I intentionally and intuitively just kind of ate. And then when I wanted to get lean again, I wanted to find the right way to do it that wasn't going to, make me obsessed with calories and macros, but would also give me the body composition I wanted. All those were decisions that I made for what I wanted. And when I made that final decision in 2015 to kind of blend food quality with the right, strategy for calories, macros, and all that stuff in a way that didn't feel restrictive to me, I finally found peace with myself in a way that allowed me to realize, okay, I can be intentional and intuitive and know when my body is asking me for something that I need to give it, and when I can actually hold back or, make decisions for myself intentionally. So you have to really ask yourself what you want for yourself in life. I know for me, where I'm at in my life, I want to be able to experience things and be fit and be strong and take care of my body. And, I don't want to be in pain. I want to be able to enjoy food. I don't want to be hungry. I want to feel like at peace in my body and feel proud of it and not feel like I'm having to constantly micromanage everything, so that's what I want for all of my clients. That's what I want for myself. Okay. So the first thing that I wrote down here in terms of where we want to start is that if you want to get to a place where you can maintain staying lean while being intuitive, and even if that's not your goal, if you just want to lose fat, you have to start with being intentional. Okay. Every intuitive decision to change has to start with an intentional decision to go against it to intuition. Okay. So when I first started my first diet and I wanted to lose weight, it was not intuitive for me to no longer stop at Burger King in the morning and get a freaking croissant sandwich and hash browns and orange juice, because that was my breakfast in the morning. And it's no wonder I gained a bunch of weight. But I had to make the intentional decision, like, all right, I'm staying home. And at that point, it was like, I guess I'm going to have some Special K and some fat-free milk. So that was an intentional change that I made. It wasn't intuitive at the time, but it was an intuitive choice to be intentional. Intentional changes are what create result changes. And it's why I also believe in setting action-based progress metrics, not just result-based progress metrics. So if you're always focusing on the scale, you're always focusing on gym performance, you're always focusing on body composition, but you're not focusing on the work you're doing to get those things, you are missing the mark on where progress is being made. Progress is being made in your actions, not in the result. Okay, so we have to create intentional changes. We're going to go into what we teach at my company with me and my coaches, and where I don't care who you are, this is what you need. All right. So I say the back. I don't care who you are. I care who you are. If you have already been eating healthy, all right, and you have like done all the basics that you're already working out, you're already eating healthy, you're doing the basic things. You need to be tracking your food. Okay, like what gets tracked can be changed. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to, I don't know why I have no energy. I don't know why my gut's a mess. I don't know. Like, what are you eating? How much are you eating? Okay, like those two things are going to matter the most for making changes in anything in life with your body composition and how your body's performing in life. Do you hear my cat? He obviously clearly wants to hear about staying lean. So we want to make sure that we are tracking our food. We also want to make sure that we are weighing our food. Okay. I know that we all, myself included, want to believe that we are really good at eyeballing portions, but chances are that's probably what's lacking and why, if you are tracking your food, you're not getting results. You're either not tracking everything or you're not weighing everything. Those are the basics. All right. So I'm not going to beat around the bush here. That's usually the two things that are holding people back. I could talk about why those two things are hard for people, but we're going to save that for another episode. Okay. We want to be building awareness around how food makes you feel. All right. So I said tracking your food. I said weighing your food. I did not say tracking macros yet at all. I did not say focusing on food quality and what you're eating yet. I said just tracking your food and weighing it to see what you're eating and how much you're eating, and then how foods are making you feel. All right. So if you're looking back at your diet and you have diarrhea every day after lunch, but every day after you're stopping at Chick-fil-A for lunch and you're getting a fried chicken sandwich and French fries, maybe the amount of oil you're consuming at lunch is literally going right through you, right? Like, or vice versa, you're like always constipated. And this is not even talking about body composition. And you're looking at how much fiber you're getting in and you're like, 5 grams of fiber all day, maybe some fiber will help, right? So we're just tracking and we're seeing how food makes you feel. When you eat breakfast and you're in your lock-in phase, are you hungry 10 minutes later? Or are you actually satiated long enough to be able to sustain your body for a little bit longer than just for a couple of minutes, right? Like where are we having to, or where are we going to learn from what we're tracking? Okay. So building awareness around how food makes you feel. Also looking at structured meals and snacks. So if you grew up in the 90s, like me, there's a big thing about like grazing, right? We saw these women like, they're just grazers, and like small eating became the thing. Okay, small eating is usually why people are overeating, because small bites don't really ever make you feel satiated. It actually always leave you slightly unsatisfied. So you're always looking for another little bite. It's kind of like a slippery slope. You think you're eating less, but over time it ends up adding up. Okay, so like structured meals and snacks, which means learning your appetite cues. Okay, going back into intuition. This is part of it that's still intuitive in an intentional phase. Are you listening to what your body's asking you for? Okay, so like example, you're in a fat loss phase and you're like, I only have 1,400 calories. So I'm going to skip breakfast and I'm going to wait until lunch to eat. But all morning, all you are thinking about is lunch. Okay. That's not an intuitive decision to be intentionally feeding your body the right by appetite cues. Your body is craving nutrients in the morning. And I get it. Like I said, fat loss is somewhat is intentional, but you don't want to completely like neglect your body's intuitive signals, because that's usually why women struggle with ever actually trusting themselves again. It's learning how to work with those signals. So like you wake up hungry, eat. Your body will respond much better when you feed it at the times that it's asking you for nourishment. Okay. So it's learning how to build those structured meals and snacks. I wrote down recognizing appetite cues. So I wrote that down and I already talked about that. And then another thing was understanding how things in your life might influence your food decisions. So stress, emotional regulation, like all of a sudden not getting enough sleep, how that impacts your appetite, whether you don't get an appetite or you get a ravenous appetite. Like looking at how life is actually influencing your food decisions, and being aware of that. Again, we haven't even addressed anything about changing yet, but we are just simply trying to figure out what your body is saying to you. I'm sorry, let me just move my cat because he's just getting into trouble. Yes. I honestly truly do not know what I would do if I had kids, because my cat, I have to like move everything because he just wants to just knock everything off the counter, and I don't want the thing to fall off the counter. So we want to make sure that we are just basically using this time to be intentional about building awareness. And then we are being intentional about creating a deficit. Creating a calorie deficit for fat loss is not intuitive, right? You are going against what your body is asking you for, but it can be intuitive in the way that you go about that. So some people, hey, I will just, cut my portions in half, whatever. Some people are like, you know what, I'm going to swap foods. Either way works. So meaning, let's just say you're trying to cut back on fats. You can eat half the amount of peanut butter that you normally do, or you can switch to powdered peanut butter. You can eat half the amount of eggs and use a different type of protein, or you can just use egg whites, right? There's two different ways to create that calorie deficit based on you. You can eat less or you can move more. That is an intuitive decision on how you want to go about your fat loss phase. But it is not intuitive to be doing that. You're actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to get to a goal, just like you would do in the gym, right? That's the intentional piece of fat loss. Now, going into, we're going to talk about getting to the point where I am at today where, okay, how do we maintain living lean intuitively? In between intuitively living lean and intentionally creating fat loss is the middle phase where a lot of coaches talk to you about reverse dieting. And I understand the importance of reverse dieting. We need to make sure that you're eating enough food. But I think this gets oversimplified as a calorie game. Unless you want to eat by calories for the rest of your life, reverse dieting is not just about the calories and the macros and making sure that you are metabolically in a good place to maintain your weight. It is also about the psychology that has to happen, the mental transformation that has to happen between going from somebody who is going to continue to lose weight and then go out of a fat loss phase to regain it, or somebody that has like solidified what it looks like to build a plan that is sustainable for life, right? And it's the difference between the woman that's like burns out and she like makes every excuse for why this is just hard, her body's not changing, she can't maintain everything, life is miserable, woe is me, I'm doing all this work, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, F it, I don't care. Versus someone that's like, man, I like have made so much progress, I do not want to go back. Okay. And like, that's the woman that I want you to become. And what I want you to shift from is the woman that feels the need to control everything in that phase into the woman that's like, I have trust again. But that intentional phase between fat loss and being intuitive is that part of it is the reverse diet, figuring out what maintenance looks like for you calorically, movement wise. But again, it's the time where you also rebuild trust with yourself. So as I said, in a fat loss phase, we are being more intentional. So when it comes to like things like eating out, right? You're going to be a lot more careful with your food. Maybe you are turning down some food outings because you're like, I really don't need to go to Chili's on a Tuesday night. I'm just going to skip that. I want to stick to my own food, right? You're making decisions. Maybe you're bringing more of your food to family events because you're like, I got limited calories and I really don't want to be hungry. You're making those intentional decisions to make fat loss more comfortable to you while you are there. But then in that reverse phase of going into intuitive, we want to also be looking at what are things that matter to you in life beyond that goal. Okay. So like I'm an athlete. I've been an athlete for 16 years in the sport of CrossFit, right? And there are a lot of intentional decisions I made in my life to put training first. But in maintenance, it's the opposite. It's okay, I can start to work in like maybe times where maybe I'm not prioritizing so much of my training to give time to other areas of my life. It's the same thing for you with your food. It's like, okay, yeah, I like stopped eating dessert or I don't eat out very often. It's kind of testing yourself a little bit also in this phase of like, what things do you want to bring back in? Where are you curious about things that maybe you've taken out? Maybe you are a mom and you started to cook food for yourself and you want to start to reintegrate family meals. I'll be honest, I can talk about why I like women to integrate family meals throughout their fat loss phase, but maybe that's you and you are like, okay, I stopped making recipes because it was just too complicated. So now in this reverse phase, we are also building trust back in yourself that you can do that stuff and it's not going to totally derail your progress, right? So we are rebuilding trust. We are rebuilding meals. So as I mentioned, everybody's deficit is created differently. So are you somebody that, swapped food? So now we're reintroducing things like eggs and higher fat meats because you enjoy those things. Or we're swapping out some of those like low calorie products for full fat products or full calorie products. Or if you cut your portions back, now you're rebuilding portions and just making it easy for you to transition into a more natural. If you've been weighing all of your food out and you want to stop weighing all of your food, maybe now we're doing more of a cross-checking and just like rebuilding that trust with yourself that you know how to portion food on a plate. That you can also listen to your appetite when, hey, you know what, like I'm having lunch and I feel like the amount of rice on my plate isn't that much, so I want to add a little bit more. Those are intentional decisions that we do in that phase of rebuilding trust with intuition, again, to get you to a place where you can maintain intuitively. Okay. And now we're going to go into how to get to a place where you can like intuitively maintain. So if you are a female who has been, or a female, anybody, I have men that work with me too, but you've been intentionally maintaining, okay, or you can intentionally maintain for a little while, but it's never felt intuitive for you. Like, it's like you're either tracking your food and you feel like you're dialed in and you can maintain, or you're like, I just can't, like, I don't feel like I can trust myself. I don't trust my hunger cues. I have to eat by numbers. I only eat when I'm allowed to eat. I never go over. Even if you don't track your food, I have women that come to me that don't track their food, but they have spent so many years, like in some way, shape, or form, controlling their food that they know, all right, this is about what I can have. In fact, we talked about this on my call yesterday, is like women that are like not eating bread. They're using like rice cakes for bread. It's like, come on, eat the real fucking bread. Like, this is the stuff that we were talking about yesterday on the call, but the first thing is, you need to make sure that you are spending enough time being intentional. So women that have been, if you are someone that has been, chronically like tracking your food for years and years and years and years, and you're like, I just don't even know if I can ever not track my food because I feel like I don't trust myself. You've spent so much time being intentional. You can trust yourself. You are actually doing yourself a disservice, and you are actually showing that you don't have trust in yourself by doing that. You're actually telling yourself it's discipline, but it's actually just fear that you don't have control over your food. You need to be able to say, hey, like, I don't need to track my food in order to be able to feed myself. I'm going to talk more about what we need to talk about with that, though, in terms of appetite, because when you are trying to get leaner and you also want to stay leaner, as I mentioned, fat loss is not intuitive. You have somewhat went against, you've grown more intuitive to go against what body is asking you for. So like when you're hungry in a fat loss phase, you're like, I'm going to wait an hour because I want to space out my food. That was going against intuition. In this phase of rebuilding trust, I actually think I should not eat by the clock. I think I should eat now and then see how my body feels and eat again in a little bit. Like, that's some stuff that needs to happen. But when you've spent enough time being intentional, you don't have to be so meticulous with things. You know about what you're doing. Self-monitoring. So like, we're going to talk about rebuilding trust with your appetite, but just not obsessing over the scale, but like keeping weigh-ins. If you are worried about gaining weight, which is what a lot of women are worried about, just kind of monitoring like things like digestion, how your workouts are feeling, sleep changes, all of that stuff, especially if you are moving away from tracking, because if you are someone that has, spent time getting leaner and you're worried about putting on weight, a lot of women tend to undereat. And that can just kind of become a recipe for disaster. And then they don't know why. They're like, I don't know why I'm like spiraling on the weekends. And it's like, well, your body's actually looking for nourishment. And during the week when your, stress is high and you're running on cortisol, like your body is now in a place of rest. And it's like, okay, give me food. So we want to look at that kinds of stuff. And then as I mentioned, we want to also understand appetite. Okay. I effing hate the word food noise. I am so over that word. I use it myself, but it is like, it's not that I hate the word. It's why have we switched from understanding hunger and cravings to, oh, we just have food noise. Like, food noise is bad. No, like it's your kid screaming in the back room because he's hungry or needs his diaper changed. Like there is a need for something. And your body, when it's asking for food, needs something. It needs food because it's hungry. It's your hormones talking to you. And maybe you need sleep. Maybe you need rest. Maybe you do need food. Or it's emotional regulation that you're looking for, right? Like your body has a need, and just ignoring the need or like just trying to dim it out is not going to help you become more intuitive. And if you keep dimming out the food noise, you will never learn how to be intuitive. That's also why I don't believe in the whole GLP-1 craze. I get it. They can be very helpful for someone that's trying to regain control, but the goal should be an intervention to build trust back in a way that's more manageable for that person. You know, it's an intervention that's kind of forced, so that person can rebuild trust with themselves. Okay, but we need to understand your appetite cues. This also means, like for me, when I started to switch from being intentionally staying lean into intuitively staying lean, it was like when I put food on my plate, it's like, does this look like enough food for me? Not this is how much I'm supposed to have or what somebody else thinks is normal. It's, does this look like enough food for me? And not even from a volume perspective. It's also normalizing things like when you have toast, putting butter on it. Something that if you've been in a fat loss phase, you might have switched out because you're like trying to save calories. You are no longer trying to save calories. Okay. Like we need to get out of that trying to save calories mindset if you want to learn how to live lean intuitively. Women that live lean intuitively are not trying to save calories for later on. They're like, I'm having toast and I want something on it, whether it's butter, whether it's peanut butter, whether it's avocado. It tastes good to have dressing, right? Like meals are not just about how it changes your body. It's about how that food makes you feel. Like, does that meal feel satiating to you? From a pleasure perspective, it's enjoyable. From a fueling perspective, it's enough food. We can eat so mechanically for so long in a fat loss phase or to be a robot, to be lean, but that doesn't allow you to actually feel good in your day-to-day life. Like I want you having both. Okay. All right. So, all right. The last thing I wrote down here with getting to a place where you can intuitively maintain is one of the things I have really been like focusing on with my clients is the concept of building trust and confidence in yourself as a person. And that means in maintenance, you are no longer acting out of a place of fear or avoidance. Okay. So both of those two things are why maintaining body composition is hard. And it's why women are like, I don't know why I'm gaining weight, or I don't know why I'm so obsessed with food. You know exactly why. It's avoidance and it's fear. So for instance, in maintenance, if you check out of MyFitnessPal on the weekend and you know your food is completely different and you are afraid of the scale and you don't step on the scale again until Wednesday or Thursday, that's fear. You are acting out of a place of fear, especially if on Monday morning you are careful with your food, right? Like that's not being intuitive. That's being intentional in a way that's acting out of a place of fear, not a place of trust. You didn't trust yourself enough over the weekend to say that, hey, I made decisions for myself and my body in a way that allows me to enjoy the weekend and also feel good about where I'm at. There is a big, big difference between a woman who is like, I am so confident on the weekend that when I go out and I have a burger and fries, like it's not a big fucking deal. And I can eat breakfast tomorrow morning and I don't have to do extra exercise and I don't have to worry about the scale because I ain't worried about the scale. Like there is a difference in the energy that that woman has versus the one that's like, oh, like I'm so disciplined, I'm not having the burger, or, oh, Monday morning comes, I'm back on the diet plan, or I'm, like that woman is still insecure. And that woman is never going to feel secure until she rebuilds that trust with herself again, to not avoid and not fear, but to act out of a place of self-respect and confidence. And that's truly what I want for all of my clients and what I want for all of you guys that are listening to this. So all of this to end on this. What I wrote down here at the end here is, let's see what I wrote down. Intentional eating becomes intuitive. Okay. So this is what I wanted to end on. Intentional eating becomes intuitive. So meaning there was a time in your life where maybe it was not intuitive for you to eat breakfast. But now you've spent the last, 3 years eating breakfast every morning. That intentional decision has become more intuitive. You've started to eat breakfast regardless of what your appetite says, right? That's an intentional decision that has now become intuitive for you. It's just natural. That is the beauty of being intentional. Okay. What else did I write down here? Intentional. Okay. I wrote this down as well. The last piece that I wrote down on my little note sheet is intentionally eat intuitively throughout the process. So this means that this is also why this is why I love the concept of flexible dieting. Okay. Flexible dieting, I give my clients a lot of leeway with macro ranges because I know that I want them to build balanced meals, but I want them to be intuitive with how they build those balanced meals. I don't want to micromanage my clients' foods. I do make sure they're getting enough nourishment in. So I'm like, hey, we need more of these nutrients in our diet, but we want to be eating intuitively, intentionally throughout that process. So if you're somebody that likes having sushi once a week, you better have sushi once a week in a fat loss phase. If you're somebody that has pizza night with your kids, you better have pizza night with your kids in a fat loss phase. That's the stuff that we want to make sure that we're being intuitive with. If you know, you don't want to work out on low energy, you are being intentional about where you are intuitive, or you're being intuitive about where you put your calories because you want to feel good in your workouts, right? That's stuff that is intuitive while being intentional. So hopefully this episode gives you guys a little bit of hope at what is possible, because the goal really is, when it comes to, I just unplugged my computer. When it comes to getting to a place where, you have body comp goals, but you don't want to spend the rest of your life living to change your body, right? It's great to have fitness goals. It's great to want to keep improving, right? But you go to the gym for an hour, 2 hours a day, whatever it is, live the rest of your day. You got 22 more hours in your day. Do you want to be obsessed about your body, or do you want to be able to live your life and do other things? Remove the noise about food and what you should or shouldn't be eating, and constantly being hungry and waiting for your next meal and all of that stress, and actually just get to a place where maintenance becomes easy for you, right? That's the goal, is that maintaining your body should be easy. There's a lot of women out there that are like, oh, what good is your dream body if it's a nightmare to maintain? That is so true. But I think that the difference with me is that I'm not telling you to give up on your goals and just accept where you're at. And I don't think that those women really are either. I think that they're really just talking to women that are just very extreme. But I want you to know that you can be intentional and push yourself to a place where all right, I know I have to push to get where I want to be. But once I get there, life is so much better. Life should be better on the other side of you achieving that goal. The things you do to change your body should make you feel pulled to do those things over and over again, make you more excited for life, make you more excited to put on your bathing suit and go out to the beach, not make you feel like, oh my God, I can't go to the beach because I don't know what I'm going to eat there, right? That's no way to live your life. So if this episode resonates with you, you guys have any questions about anything, you want to learn more about my program, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm just going to pop over and see if anybody else is still watching. I see a lot of people that popped on here. I don't see any questions though. So I am going to hop off. It is almost 11 o'clock. I am going to be starting a new series on, it's going to be specifically for my YouTube channel. So it will only live on YouTube. It's going to be a little bit about my current journey. So if you guys have been following me since, really since April, when I had that crazy hospital issue happened, I've made some big breakthroughs, and I am so excited for sharing some of the things with you guys. Which is going to be very vulnerable for me, but also I feel like I am always and have always been somebody that I'm not a good liar. I'm not a good liar. I am so the person that's going to tell you the absolute truth. In fact, I'm brutally honest. And so if you've worked with me, you know that, because I'm just going to tell you like it is. I'm already in your head before you're in your head. I call my clients out all the time. But that also means I'm going to call myself out, and I'm going to be open and honest about some shit. And it's going to be a good series. I've been trying to record the first video all week. In fact, I kind of did record the first video because it was like not planned, but I was in the feels of everything that I've been through and where I was at. And I feel like I think I need to not put that one out there, but I might put it out there. We'll see. Anyways, if you guys have any questions about anything that I talked about today or more questions on my program, reach out to me. There is a link in the show notes for a call. Those calls are free. Like they're like called it like the no sweat intro for my CrossFitters. No, it's totally just to learn a little bit more about you, what your goals are. You can obviously ask me questions about things. No pressure. It's in the show notes. And until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.